Hi, this is Sarai Rivera, and this is 508, a show about Worcester.
This is 508. Also today on the show, Tu Nguyen. How are you doing, Tu?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, and Callista Perry.
Hi.
And I'm Michael Benedetti. It's August the 21st, 2013. Today we're kicking off, finally, our conversations with candidates for the 2013 Worcester municipal elections. Councilor Rivera, you are running unopposed in District 4, right?
Yes, I am.
For re-election.
Correct.
I am super interested to talk to you then, because I feel like maybe you could be more honest than other people would be. Both because you're a good person and because you're running unopposed.
I'd probably be honest anyways, regardless.
That's
It's
right.
probably what gets me into trouble.
So you've been on the city council for like a year and a half now, right?
Yeah, I'm about a year and 8 months. Who's counting?
And
In fact, almost 9.
how is it? Is it like you expected it was going to be, being a city councilor?
Man, I tell this story all the time. People probably tired of hearing it, but you ever, I always kind of compare it a little bit to like, when I don't know if you really knew what to expect. It's kind of like labor. As much as you read about it and you prepare and you go to all the classes, it's not really until you go through it that you really, really fully know the experience.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of what I feel is council. I think that you kind of talked about it, thought you prepared, but you really had to go through it in order to really appreciate the experience.
Yeah. I mean, how has it been different?
I think that one of the things that's been really challenging and different is the unrealistic expectation that people have. Like
Okay.
they think that somehow city councilors have these magic wands
Right.
and we could just make things happen like 1, 2, 3, and just about anything. Like one time somebody asked me, do you think you could get Charter to not play Family Feud so much on Channel 80? I don't think so. No, I don't think I can do that. And I'm pretty honest with people. Like I don't try to give them the song and dance about what I feel like I can and cannot do. I will really try on things. And also, I also come from the kind of the school that we're empowered as a community and as a people. So to me, I don't feel like I'm the voice of the people. What I am is to make sure that their voices are heard, that they're there at the decision-making table, that they have an opportunity to speak. So one of the challenges I think that has been different for me is that I wanted to continue to kind of bring forth that frame of mind of thinking and empower the people to say, okay, what do you want to do? Like, I'll support your agenda, I'll support, but you need to gather, you need to rally people, you need to call, you need to lobby. What is it that you want? What do you want to say? Mm-hmm. And I think versus people kind of thinking that we were the gods or the do-alls, and we could go and say and do. I think in many aspects people sometimes do that in our roles, but coming from that kind of mentality of that school of thinking that we as a people are so much stronger united than one person just speaking. Yes, I'll definitely take that leadership. I'll definitely push it forward. And that was like what you saw even last night on foreclosure mediation. But it was also about working with a group of people that had their own voice, that were speaking out and making sure that they had a seat at that decision-making table and that their voices were heard. And that's what I ran on. That was one of my platforms. And that's one of the things that I tried to consistently keep. I think that's been a shift because normally that wasn't happening.
So one of the areas of Worcester city politics where I think we have a real, impoverishment of imagination or a real disconnect sometimes with the average person is in trying to understand what exactly the city council's role is. Because I think that, as we're growing up, we have these different ideas of what a politician is. When we're a little kid, maybe we think they're like mom or dad. We get older, we think they're maybe like a king. Eventually we watch Schoolhouse Rock and we take civics classes and we learn more about what a politician does, and we watch movies and we understand like where a politician has power, where they don't. The Worcester City Council, though, is a little bit different because of the way that our government is organized. Because there's a lot of authority in the hands of, an appointed but unelected city manager, that I think people get very confused about what city councilors do and what their role in city government is. And I don't feel like we have good stories or even a good elevator pitch to explain this. So, like, as a city councilor, what do you do, and what is your role?
I mean, I agree with what you're saying in many aspects. And we do a little bit about everything kind of thing. So it's funny because the other day I was on Facebook, and somebody said that they found a dog in Maine South area, and I was like, just out of curiosity, I was like, okay, where? Because I do know some of my neighbors, and in case, I mean, Maine South is vast, so you never know what part of the corridor. But it just so happens that then I had somebody else on my Facebook that was saying, oh my goodness, I just came home and I've been hours looking for my dog. And I said, wait a minute. And so here I was mediating, connecting two people to help find the lost dog in my district. Yeah. And they have been reunited. Thank you, Tiki, doing well now. So, you know, you have like things like that, which is just connecting with people. I think that that's really important. I think a city councilor, we're the legislative body here in the city. So we are the ones that are setting the laws and all the different forms of legislation in which we run by here and governmentally, you know, in our municipality. Right. And that sounds like a bunch of kind of political jargon, but it's just basically the ABCs of it is the ideal is to work with the people to set some, you know, laws that are for the people and regulations and help to support quality of life and our daily living in our city.
Okay. So how many hours a week are you in meetings and doing those kinds of things?
Lord have mercy. That's the other thing. Like supposedly, right? We're all told this is a part-time job.
Right.
Whoever said that, they're lying. They are lying. Like you are. It's like a 24/7. You think about it. You get up at 2-3 in the morning. And you're thinking about, oh my goodness, I have to call this. You know, between emails and calls alone, I can spend hours just on emails and calls. That's not concluding.
And this is emails and calls from constituents and people who are asking for this or that or help with this or that.
And that's not, you know, and there's always something that can slip, right? Because you just got 50 at one and you're trying to sort through. In the meantime, you have the, you know, your standard meetings, neighborhood meetings, regular meetings, things that you're dealing with. And then you're dealing with issues that come up. You know, we knew the issues of HUD that we're working with very seriously, you know. The last few days I've been working on this foreclosure mediation kind of nonstop, trying to figure out and being able to come to council with a plan. The agenda alone, which I read,
it's a long agenda.
Lord have mercy, it will take you hours to go through it. I mean, if you really want, and even things that you feel that are not your cup of tea or you know, dredging the pond and why that's important, because money is coming into that. Is that significant? Why does that matter? Right. You know, acquiring land for water quality and why that's important. So things like that you wouldn't normally think that maybe that, but as a city that's effective. So these are important to read and educate yourself with. So I mean, there's always something, and so it's like you're on the job all the time.
Okay. Do you guys have any feedback so far? I just want to make sure that you guys aren't just silent here today. I'm gonna ask a couple more questions, but you guys should definitely just interrupt whenever you got something to say.
Sorry, I'm getting over a cold.
That's
coughing
fine.
Away.
I guess there's a lot of questions here that I want to ask. I'm trying to think of which of them are appropriate for this interview. One question, I guess, that was interesting to me was a question that a person who helps with the show had suggested, which was to ask if the children in your life plan to live in Worcester when they grow up.
Yeah, it's funny if you ask my sons that were born and raised here, the ones that were born and raised here, they love Worcester. They see it as such their home. Like they. The house that we've built, we've worked really hard to make it their own. They talk about owning, you know, eventually that house and passing it on generation. They feel very much the sense of home here and very proud. And I think that even if they went to college, I think they'd like to be able to work here. My sons that are from another country, they definitely love it. You know, they had the option of moving and going into other communities where there's larger populations of their culture, and yet they've decided to stay. And two of them one is now married with a child, just newborn baby. So I'm a new grandmother, 4 months. Thank you, so cute, and she's adorable. And one is going to be going to Clark, starting. You know, he has his orientation tomorrow. And so I mean, so far, they seem to really have made this their home.
I'm always curious about that because it seems like, I don't know. I was growing up in areas that were not so densely populated as New England, so the idea of leaving the state or whatever was definitely there and was something that people definitely did. But it wasn't like New York City was a couple of hours away, Boston was a couple of hours away, all these other cities were a couple of hours away that you could actually go and see them. It was more like theoretically you could move to New York.
Yes.
You knew that it was legally possible, but the idea of doing it was a little bit.
The other thing too is I've exposed my children since they were very little. I mean, here within the city, our work in ministry, we've exposed them to many cultures, many communities.
Yeah.
And then outside of Worcester, we've done missions, and I enjoy to travel. My husband and I are both very prideful about being Americans, about being, my husband's a transplant. He came from Harvard, but he's made Worcester his home, thanks to me. But he loves it. If he were given a choice, you would never think that he wasn't raised here, the way that he loves the city as well, and this community. So I think that in turn, they've learned to kind of see that in us, and they've kind of adopted that for themselves.
That pride in the city and that love for the city.
Yeah, it's just because it's home to them. We can walk down certain areas and there's memories, right? There's a memory of this or that, or one thing or another that has to do with their lives. And I think especially now, the home that we have and how we've been kind of working on the yard and building it up, and to us talking about the future and who will inherit the home and keep it, and hopefully for generations. And that's part of a lot of in our culture, is to tell stories, and our families and the people before us. And the work that my parents did that was here was really important. And so I'm very grounded because of my parents and what they did. So a lot of here reminds me of them. And so that's important to me.
So you sort of have that multi-generational Worcester family working in the favor of the kids, also saying this is a place which is actually more than just a place where my parents happen to find a job.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, they've seen it when we've gone out and they've asked, oh, you're so-and-so's daughter. And my parents were pastors. They were one of the first 3 Latino pastors here in the city in the early 70s. And when you look at Whittier Terrace and he worked construction, my father worked that job, and you could go by there and say, oh, my father helped build that. Or many of the which is interesting, many of the pastors that are here will tell me, oh, your mother was my teacher, which was really nice too, who was a Latino female that taught many of the pastors who are here. So there's definitely this legacy. I don't have my mom anymore. I lost her when I was very young, so having that here brings me very close to her as well.
Yeah. You guys have any thoughts about living in Worcester?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Worcester is a place you can't help but fall in love with. Growing up here, it's just there's just a warmth that I just don't feel anywhere else. And Worcester has so much potential that you're just waiting for it to blossom. It's on the brink, and you just see everyone here trying so hard and working so hard, and you're just I want to stay here for the long run to see it grow,
I totally have seen this in my more or less decade in Worcester. I've seen a few people, these sort of generations where people are coming here for college, they're in their early 20s, and they see that potential. And then there's the 2 groups of people. There are some who are going to leave by the time they're 25, because they're you know what, I've been banging my head against this wall for 2 or 3 years, and Worcester's potential is not gonna. Worcester seems completely dead set against fulfilling its potential. But then there's the other group of people who bang their head against the wall for 2 or 3 years and say, this is going to be a long struggle and a long adventure, but it's worth it, and I'm going to stay here for the next 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, of course it's going to be a struggle. We're in, an urban city full of minorities, but, that's where the magic is. That's where, amazing people are going to pop up, like Sarai Rivera. It's just people, I worked with your son, Caleb, and I'm just wow, just watching him at the film screening, I'm helping, create future leaders, and, you are too, and, that's where it's at, where we're, slowly just, branching off more leaders, and I can't see anything that's worth it, more worth than just working with kids and working with Worcester, because we're gonna be popping.
I grew up in a great neighborhood though too. I grew up on Austin Street, and at the time Austin was in the beginning of starting to get to some development. It had some plight, but it had, but the next to me, the 2 buildings was a homeowner, right? He owned that home, and it was a family, and he lived there, and the daughter lived there, so it was family. Across the street was another family that owned that property, and then all 3 floors were cousin, uncle, whatever.
Right.
And down the street it was all eclectic, different people from different white, black, Greek. I mean, and we had that I think now we had that, I don't know if you want to call it quote unquote traditional kind of neighborhood to certain aspects. We sat on the stoop and we talked and we chatted, and our neighbors knew each other, so you knew like if you did something wrong, we were like family.
Right.
Till this day, if someone passes away in the neighborhood, we go. It's like family. There was things that we did, like the memories of where I jacked my face up for riding bike, or that I used to skateboard. Believe it or not, I used to skateboard. What was wrong with me? I don't know. Up and down Crown Hill. Like, I love Crown Hill because those were parts of my playground. My friends lived in that area, so we were all in like this great neighborhood of we got popsicles and you share popsicles, or the first time that I stayed home by myself and my mother was like, don't open the door, and then she tested me, as it's like one of those Halloween weeks, and I'm watching a show saying he knows that you're alone or something like that. Why I'm watching that, I don't know. So I'm like 14 years old or something, 13, and I hear like at the door, and I'm like, who is it? And it was my mother testing me to make sure that I didn't open the door. And I'm calling my neighbors next door, my friend, and I'm like, listen, I think there's somebody at the door. Just come over. What? Just come over. So it was great to just have my neighbor, like, they were like running over, and it was my mother just making, she's like, I wanted to test to make sure you didn't open the door, as I almost had a heart attack. But that I could call my neighbors, and they were right there. They were like coming, scared to death, but they were coming. So that was like, I have really fond memories of growing up and having that family feel. When I remember having a tragedy, my best friend died when I was 16, and when he died, just the whole neighborhood grieved. It was just a mourning that fell over everyone in the neighborhood. It wasn't just my neighbor's son. He was significant to all of us. Like tons of us were at the hospital, like whether you knew each other really well or not. It was just, and we all grieved together. So it was just that kind of neighborhood. We laughed together, we grieved together, and it bonded us to a way that I don't see sometimes some of those neighborhoods anymore that I think are so significant. But I was really, really blessed to be part of that, and really helped to, I think, love the city all the more.
I want to ask you about economic development, just so we can change the subject from something heartwarming to something less heartwarming. Like early in the summer, the big economic development question in Worcester was like, should we have a slot machine parlor in the city? Should we welcome this? Should we try to stop this process? And this ended up not happening. But I think it just sort of stirred up again this question of like, I don't know, what direction should the city be moving in?
Well, that's a really good question. And so one of the things that I had to learn really quick as I took office was learning about numbers and economics and business, and why that was so important and such an important aspect of our city, which is, I had worked in other aspects throughout my, activism work, but it was like really quick. I had to get my business 101 class up and going. We in Worcester, I think when you looked at the issue of the slots, it wasn't sound business. It wasn't long-term sustainable. It was kind of like, if I gave you got $75 to buy some groceries for the week, but you went and you took those $75 and you spend it to live it up for one day. You got lobster, steak, high-end fruit, whatever, and you racked it up. You're gonna eat really well for that one day, but for the rest of the week, you're gonna be starving. And that's kind of what I felt, that they were presenting us with this package that seemed really good initially, but was not long-term sustainable. And in this city, that's not what we need. That's been always a downfall of a problem. And I think that we're also on an economic thrust right now with all the development that's happening. It's not like we're not having any development. We are. I mean, if you look downtown and some of the development and people choosing to move here. For example, me in my district, one of the things that I've been pushing has been the South Worcester Industrial Park.
Yeah.
That's been a big thing for me. And because now when you look at all that has happened, we have the infrastructure that has been put in place, the issue of being able to, we have the land, we've had it cleaned, we have these parcels ready. Now it's ready for market. And now we're looking at being able to recruit businesses, so business recruitment, which we're competing even globally, right? But more and more people are saying, okay, we want to support and build in America. So bringing in some businesses that are willing to come here, that can see this is we have the everyday trade person, the everyday laborer, and then we have the college students. So we have a good mix of folks. It's right in a neighborhood where people can walk to work. People can get to work easily. if for the trucks and for things coming in and out, we have the infrastructure that was redone in the last several years. So there's the train, there's the highways. So the infrastructure was in place. We're ready to go. And this is about job creation, really solid job creation. And so this was, for me, what I wanted to focus on. And getting such a giant like that was going to, again, when I had done all this work, was going to take away from that. This is really concrete, solid, sustainable type of economic development.
Right.
The other things that I also tried to do is help on small businesses, especially, small businesses getting the attention they deserve, getting the support they deserve, and especially when you think about minority businesses as well, people just starting out, entrepreneurs starting, being able to support them and know and understanding. There's a lot of support through government and making those connections.
What kind of support in particular are you talking about, or just give an example of that?
For example, looking at, for example, let's look at like facades, right? Being able to know that they could actually be part of the facade program.
Okay.
That's one example.
So just be able to connect them in and say, like, if somebody's starting a business, be able to say, like, hey, I can help you understand the regulation a little bit. I can connect you in with opportunities that are coming up, things that you might not know about. We can get you plugged into all that stuff.
Yes, and if we see that there's a problem or anything that the business is dealing, we have someone, Phil Nidri, who I've worked with a lot. He's been great. And be able to go and talk to the business and whatever issue that they're dealing with. Look, it's from small things, from anything, well, never so small, but from the things like a parking space, or to a dumpster, to a more general thing, whether it's facade changing, looking at connecting with other businesses and marketing, and also connecting those folks to other businesses as well that normally maybe wouldn't connect, but now kind of for me being there brings people as a connector.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome. I don't know. I feel like I should ask you some dumb questions. Calissa, do you have anything to say? You're gonna play the Dave Macheski silent role. What?
Well, Sarai talked a little bit about, you talked about your children earlier, but that was just making me think more broadly about youth and students in Worcester. As a youth worker, as an educator, I think about this stuff all the time. Just kind of, I don't know, maybe what's your vision for youth services or education for young people in the city? And also maybe how you've seen that evolve over the years.
Girl, we could do a whole segment just on that.
Yeah.
And so people who know me know that that's been always a big soft spot for me. That's a lot where my specialty was when I was doing clinical work. So really quick, I think I'll do one of those really speed kind of lineup. When I ran, that was a big thing for youth, was to really get youth involved, and which is why Y4D4 was created. We decided to keep them on board, and they became a youth advisory council, sworn in and all. And they've remained very active, making decisions, working on voter turnout, which has been great and very successful, actually. They're now going to be continue to do some of that work. They're going to be partnering yet again with the initiative. It was exciting that some of the areas that they worked in was some of the areas that actually defined, for example, the District 15 race. And so they've continued to do that kind of work, and now going to be working with the initiative this year again. In fact, they just got partnering. They got a little mini grant. They actually just this summer created on their own, under some of my advisement, but they really took, I gave them some ideas and they took the lead in it, and they created a training called Y to Y, Youth to Youth, right? Y4D4 presents Y to Y, and it was all on youth organizing. And we had about 40 youth, not including that youth organizers and leaders wanted to come and observe, and they loved it. It was basically an introduction on youth organizing, on community organizing, and how we work together, and how we as youth can really have a voice and really can be leaders right now versus not just the leaders of tomorrow, but what is it that they're empowered that they can do now. And I think that they have felt that with me. I've been able to take youth to different events. Any chance I can, I'm taking them with me, whether it's at the State House or things that I've been blessed to do. So I think that continues. I think especially now with this youth organizing training that they did, leaves a really strong legacy, which I'm really excited about. And now they're going to go from this to maybe try to do some of this in some of the schools and continue to enhance on leadership. And I think the other thing to do is work with the engaged citizens to continue to enhance our civic engagement within our community. Apart from that, I continue to work within the schools with parents, which I think is really important because that's the connector. And I've done a lot of work on resident leadership at Elm Park, Claremont, University Park, and Goddard. And that has been really important. So we did a leadership with parents there from the 4 schools, which was nice. And one of the things that I also organized this year along with the economic development was a youth summit to help try to carve out a youth agenda for our city. And that's really what I like to see, kind of carving out a youth agenda for our city and getting everyone working together towards that agenda.
I want to change the subject to one last subject. This is what people have been waiting for, I think.
Yes, sir.
2 years ago when you were on here, when you were first running for city council, I asked you, how much can you bench press? You said, I don't know, but I'm willing to arm wrestle you. And I wimped out. I had an excuse that we didn't have anybody else to hold the camera. Today, I don't have that excuse. There's people to hold the camera.
And I'm sick. I'm just getting over a cold, but I'm willing to.
Well,
go
you
down,
know,
but I don't back down from a challenge.
I can't believe you pulled the I'm sick card first.
I
was totally
am.
going to say
People
that.
know if you've seen me all week, I've been coughing, I've been really
All right.
sick. I'm a little nasally.
Right arm to left arm.
Right.
All right, here we go.
Get the grip. Get it good,
All
because
right.
you know, just in case he's gonna
All right.
let us know.
Melissa, do you want to count us down?
Okay. What should I count from 10?
I don't know.
No.
I'll count from 5.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh, this is so much of a
Their
stalemate.
strength is matched, it seems.
Somebody better call it that.
Whoa.
Oh, man. 2, what do you think? Oh.
Oh. Your finger's kind of turning purple.
How many minutes do we have left on the show?
For real?
Oh.
Good job.
Wrestling match.
Good match.
Nice work.
My arms gonna be sore.
All right, thanks for being on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Also, Callista and 2, thanks for being on the show. And thanks for watching. We'll have more candidates on later in the year. I might need a
It's
while
out
to
of breath. You
recover.
see, at least I did a good. You know, I gave him a good challenge.
This is 5 Way to Show about Worcester. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next week.